Calvin Michaels is an independent R&B singer-songwriter known for his smooth vocals, heartfelt lyricism, and soulful delivery. Blending classic influences with contemporary sounds, he creates music that speaks to both timeless emotion and modern storytelling. With a passion for authenticity and artistry, Calvin has built a reputation as a voice for independent music, connecting deeply with listeners through his honest approach to love, life, and personal growth. We'll talk to Calvin, but first, this is the On a Serious Note podcast. So, here we are, first guest ever, and I'm very happy and very honored to have him on, the Calvin Michaels. All right. How you feeling tonight?
I'm great. I kind of been traveling a little bit, so just kind of adjusting to finally being back home. I'm a little behind on some stuff, but I'm very happy to have been invited. So not a lot of people invite me on for my music. So
Well, you got a lot of other
yeah,
great stuff going on, so I can understand why.
yeah.
We're going to get into a lot of the creative process of your music. We kind of want to go behind the scenes and kind of give people an idea of how great music comes to be. Let's get into it. So, the first question that I have is, what does your creative process typically look like? Like from idea to finished work?
Yeah, it kind of varies. Normally when I'm in like album mode, meaning I'm intentionally trying to make something for the project or for a project, uh, I normally start with the music first. So most of the songs that you hear on any of my albums, I already had made the music and was playing with it. And I'm somebody who really feels like your music, before you even put a vocal or, come up with a melody, the music itself needs to already have its own life. Like the music should be interesting enough where if there's not even a vocal on it, it slaps, right? So I normally make the music first. And then after that, I always ask, like, well, what does this music make me feel like? Where is this taking me? Is this like a really bright song we're happy, or are we pissed off? Once I kind of figure that out, I start kind of humming a melody in my head. So I'll make an entire melody to the music. Yeah, a lot of people do this where they like record little tunes in the voice note on their phone real quick.
Yeah,
And
like gibberish.
yeah, and exactly that. I probably have thousands of those on my phone. And then I'll finally put some lyrics to the melody and build it around that. Now, a lot of people go the opposite way. They tend to have their lyrics first and then they build the music. I kind of just like I kind of lead with the music. Like the music kind of sets up how you're going to feel about it. And then you go from there. There's a few songs here and there that maybe I go a different route and maybe I have lyrics first. But most of the time, I make the music first and kind of go for, ideas that may have been floating in my head. Sometimes you hear a song that you're like, oh, I need a song that kind of has this kind of energy. And you kind of go from there. And then sometimes it's just you're playing around. You didn't even intend to make a song and it became one. And I'll say even to the point of like listening to other music, because I do also pull back a little bit from listening to what's current. But I kind of look at it as, how do these songs make you feel? And the goal is I want to pull that same feeling. So versus kind of like, oh, they got this random bass riff. I'm taking that same bass riff and doing my own. So it's not really that. It's more like, this song made me feel this way when I first heard it, or this has that warm feeling. I want to create something that gives that same warm feeling. That's normally how I approach it. And again, it's not like a one size fits all. It kind of just, I think as creatives, we do what works for us.
Okay, so do you create the entire track first and then start writing, or is it kind of like you pull the pieces together as you're playing at the same time?
So it varies. The first iteration of the music that's made is a very, how do I say this? Okay, let me backtrack. So the single that I had that has a music video, there's the song I Want, right? The story behind that is so funny because I Want was not supposed to be a song. I went ahead and booked a director to shoot a music video and didn't have a song because I figured based on my previous experience with another music video, they were going to give me the runaround and keep pushing back, and we weren't going to shoot anything for 6 months. So I was like, I got time. So when we did contract, he's like, yeah, we can start like in a week and a half. I was like, oh, shoot, I need a song. And so when I was making that song, the only piece I had was pretty much the music that plays during the course. That was like the whole thing. And then I kind of built around that. How much you can that you wrote and so much. No strings, no. So sometimes there will be one segment of the music that's built, and I'll build a song around that. One of the tricks I use in production is a lot of my songs build, where by the time you get to the end of the song, there's so much happening in the production. A lot of times that's how the initial track was in my head, and I strip it down so it's not so crowded when you record your verses, when you record your thing. So it's kind of like you're doing the lyrics and the melody, but you're adjusting the music to fit that, because I do notice I have a very bright sound. So sometimes I need to strip some of that away because I have a smaller voice, right? So you don't want to be competing over the music. So it varies, but I know when I made the song for I Want, I made the music first and then stripped the track down to put the verses on, and then they build back up for the hooks. So a lot of my hooks are very big, bold, all kind of instruments and sound effects, but the verses tend to really just be your drum kit, maybe a quieter bass riff and some chords that are kind of under, so your voice can sit on top of the music. So it kind of varies.
As far as your production, since you pretty much make all of your own music, which DAW do you use? And
Oh,
what drew
yeah.
and what drew you to that platform?
Yeah, so I use Pro Tools for everything, and that's mainly just because I always heard from everybody, go with Pro Tools. It's the most universal. If you ever need to go to different studios for mixing and mastering, a lot of times they have Pro Tools. And it was just that when I built my studio, I just went to the Guitar Center and said, "Hey, I want to make a studio. What do I need?" They told me the hardware I needed, and then they said, "These are your choices as far as software. You can use Cubase, Logic, GarageBand." But I just always heard about Pro Tools, Pro Tools, Pro Tools. So I was like, let me just use that one because that's most likely the one that is sort of like the industry standard, and just kind of go with that. So yeah, that's my go-to. But from what I've heard from other ones, that they all kind of do the same thing. It's just about if you know how to use the software or not.
Are there any plugins or virtual instruments you can't live without?
Man, oh, can I tell you what okay, let me answer that and tell you what I'm pissed about first. Uh, so the good thing about like Pro Tools is it already comes with some plugins already, right? So there's like the Boom, which is I use that for my drum kits on my first 2 albums. But there's a lot of different plugins that I like to use. I'm trying to think of them by name. There's like the First Air bundle. The main plugin that was my favorite is through Spark. Like it's all of the drum kits on the last 2 albums that came out. I think I used Spark for everything. Problem though, Spark was an older software. I recently bought a new MacBook. I've made my last 4 albums in this MacBook that came out in 2012. Right, that thing was holding on for dear life. I was like, when I finish these albums and I finish these 2 deep dives for my YouTube channel, I need a new MacBook because the MacBook is one step from death. And so Spark was this amazing plugin. It gave me all the throwback 80s sounds that I really, really like to use, especially with like the drums and stuff. My favorite drum kit is like the Lin drum. So like songs that Prince uses for like Apollonia 6 Sex Shooter. Like I love that sound. Anyway, I say all that to say, when I got the new MacBook, these new MacBooks have the M4 chip. And the previous MacBooks from like the one I had in 2012 was an Intel. And so Spark is not compatible with M4. And they actually stopped making their plugins for the new MacBook. So I have to hold on to the old MacBook in order to use that plugin, which kind of sucks because even though my albums are out, there's hundreds of tracks and songs I never utilize and I might want to revisit. So now I need to hold on to the old MacBook in order to use those songs with that plugin. So that it has me so pissed off. I was like calling and emailing, like, so y'all are just never gonna keep it up? Like what? But that's my favorite plugin for drums. I really like there's like I think it's like I can't think of the name. I want to say it's like a baby grand piano plugin for if you want that piano sound that doesn't sound super generic, but it actually sounds like you're in a piano hall. That's a really, really great one as well. Other instrument kits that I'm actually pretty low maintenance. Like I'm one of those people that uses what's already there and I can make it work. But if I go into the studio to do another project, I'm gonna just have to invest in some new plugins.
I kind of hate when you get a plugin that fits everything that you want to do and it kind of disappears or stops working on you.
Yeah, man, I'm so mad. Now, I will say the challenge that was with that Spark plugin was that sometimes the memory was not always latched in. You have to really make sure you saved your presets because you may shut down and for the day after you saved everything and you open the project up and then it's a totally different drum kit on your song. And if you didn't write down which kit you use and what your settings were, you'll never be able to get back to,
Mhm.
unless you do like version control, you go back to an earlier version of your mix. But yeah, that's happened a few times where I was working on a song and I'm like, I don't remember what the plugin was or the drum kit that I used with this plugin because it's 300 different drum kits. So that has not been fun. But yeah.
That's on the music side, but as far as your vocals, you do some really good harmonies and layering. How do you go about doing that and making it sound so full?
It's probably because I write a lot of those songs a little too high anyway. Like I'm learning to go to the left side of the keyboard, but I'm so used to being on that right end. So then you make these songs that are sometimes really high, which so I don't really use my chest voice a lot as much as I would like to because I have a stronger falsetto. But the thing about like falsetto, you can sing as high as you want in falsetto. So when I'm doing like stacking, I normally will sing whatever I'm singing in 3 or 4 keys and then double or triple that. So if you have 3 falsettos taking the high, that exact same key, I'm gonna probably do 3 of those. One where maybe I'm closer to the mic, one where I'm further from the mic, one where I'm maybe not singing as with as much conviction. Maybe it's a little bit like a little bit more airy to kind of round it out. And then you do your middles, right? And your middle is going to be maybe a combination of falsetto and chest voice. And, you do 2 or 3 of those. And then your low, same thing. And then normally if I do a fourth key, it's either something that's in the same as one of those 3, but just in an octave lower or higher. Or if I can find something in the minor that complements but doesn't complicate, then I'll throw that in. Um, and so normally I do the backgrounds first on most of my songs, even the verses and the hooks. That's my favorite part to do because I just like how it sounds played back. And then you do what you call like that music strip where you may sound amazing when all of the music is muted in your stacking and then you play the music and there's something that's throwing something off. You have to figure out what instrument it was. And after 2 days, you realize it was some random flute that you had in the left speaker that's clashing with one of your middle notes or something. So yeah, but it's I just layer it that way. I use a lot of falsetto in the stacking. So a blend of falsetto, sometimes that whisper talk voice almost to kind of just round out the sound. And then, a combination of like your lows and your chest voice. I think blending sounds good when it's a lot of falsetto. Too much chest with stacks, unless you're really doing a big, powerful song, I think sometimes gets overwhelming after hearing it for too long.
So let's talk about the Today project. After yesterday and before tomorrow. So what was the inspiration behind the titles?
You really did your research because I don't think anybody's actually called it by the Today Project. So amen to that. But yeah, so I thought I was done making albums after my second one, just because I was like, all right, this is cool, but it's so making albums is a lot of work sometimes. Sometimes you get a little drained and tired, and by the time it's done, you don't want to do it no more. Or, you put in all the investment, you don't feel like you want to get the return. So I kind of took a break. Then the pandemic hit. I had nothing to do. I remember I was kind of just playing with a few sounds here and there, just making some little tracks in there. Because my goal with music is to actually make music for other people. I like to make music for me, but I just look at that as like my resume of what I can do for another. So I started kind of playing around. I knew it was going to be called the Today Project because I just thought around the time when I finally kind of locked in that I was doing a project, I just thought so much was happening. Like the pandemic was doing its thing. Politics is a little wild. It's just, I felt like there was a whole reset in society. So I was like, this is like where we're at today. And so initially it was supposed to just be one album, but the problem was that the songs did not complement each other. So some of the first tracks that were recorded that actually made these two, one was Harsh Truth, which is like the very last song on Record Tomorrow. That was one of the very first song that was made. Results of a sudden change. Concerns won't be addressed. We just dissolve with the herbs. With many open windows, elements cells the church exposed. Hard stones can't break what's been already broken. Broken, but so it's true. We can hide. It's come without saying goodbye. The conversation staying hush. We raise the wind silence. Today, there's no escape. Today, there's no escape. The Chasing song on that same album, which is like the second or third track, really upbeat, high energy. And then out of nowhere, there's the song, the original, like So Good. And then they just, to me, and there's songs that didn't make either project that I'm also thinking of, but they didn't really complement each other at all. And I was like, I don't think these are supposed to be on the same project. And then my godmom, who I think everybody needs that one person who can give you just the brutal, honest truth, even though they mean it from a place of love. She is a very easygoing, old soul. She don't want to hear too much racket, like she don't want to hear all that stuff, right? So she was like, one day, she's like, you know, you have this really beautiful voice and this soft tone, but when I put on your music, I feel like I'm getting attacked from 20 years. It's all kind of lasers and drums and crashes. Why you just can't make something smooth and make something nice that people like me want to listen to? So that pretty much was like, boom, maybe this is supposed to be two projects. And so the original plan was move all the up-tempo to Before Tomorrow, move all the other ones to After Yesterday. They both, you know, the two titles equate to Today, which is why it's the Today project. Yeah. And so Before Tomorrow gave me permission to do as many abstract, creative, up-tempo things as I wanted to do. And then with After Yesterday, I just kept thinking, would my godmother sit through this? Would she sit through this one? And so that's kind of how that track listing went. And I like the end result because I think it, at least for myself, it kind of showed that, okay, you actually can expand beyond what you thought you were limited to. I was kind of terrified of making almost a full album of just mid-tempo and slow jams because I was like, I don't think I can pull that off. And honestly, that album might be my favorite out of the two. So I really was happy with how they turned out.
There's a particular song, Still Jaded. I think Trezz and I both enjoy the storytelling on that song.
7 years old, the pressure in his chest, cause it's been so long and his mom ain't home yet. She's been going for days. Grandma's couch is bed. Grandma can't afford it, plus the voices run through her head. Dad was never brought up, he just called him his angel. Mr. Right, the music teacher is his favorite, not able to give the quality time. He shares with 400 kids. Christmas dinners, hot pockets with some chips and a twist. The sip of Sprite for water flavor has a good for a spell. And sirens lighting up the window, his routine like the mail. He knows to keep the lights off at the sound. The drama stays low to feel invincible and stabbing over principles. Streets not freedom, though the sun shines bright. He feels better with his TV and his games in sight. Doesn't have much to play yet, strong imagination. It takes him where he wants to go until his graduation. Sit through the closet when his mama arrives. It's a fight, another argument that's covered in lies. She can't help it, the condition that impairs all adjustment. Though she screams and exclaims, it's all very repugnant. Efficient in dreams of the world stays so cloudy. His fight with his reality's a battle too crowded. Perspectives, cuz this is everyday permanent. Hopefully with time, he'll maintain all his innocence.
With that, what inspired that particular song?
Yeah, thank you for that. That's actually, I'm supposed to be finally putting up a lyric video for that in the next few weeks. I've been meaning to do that.
We'll be very thankful for that.
Yeah, so
I'm very upset with you that you didn't have your lyrics on Apple Music.
Oh, I know, and I'm over there talking a million words a minute. But so every album of mine, I always make sure I have at least one song that just reminds people that while we're having this great time and living it up, there's somebody somewhere going through some nonsense. So like my first album, there was a song called Charades. And then the next album was Jaded View, Jaded Blue. And so this song is kind of like a continuation of those two, but kind of like a cousin to the Jaded View, Jaded Blue. Jaded View, Jaded Blue is about your own personal experience, or I guess mine, with where I was at that time. And then this one was more, you know, let's talk about how things affect other people. As far as the music, how I even ended up getting there, I randomly was just playing one of the Tribe Called Quest albums, but it was the deluxe version of, oh God, I sound like a loser not getting this album right. But it's the album that has Footprints on it. And they have that remix footprints. And so I really liked how the track sounded. I was like, this is nice. I need like just one song that I can kind of have that kind of same vibe. So that's what inspired the music behind it. The actual stories are actually based on interactions I've had with real people and what their journey is. Some family, some I used to run a community center, so you deal with all kind of not even stories because these are real experiences of people, but you're introduced to people who've lived so many different lives. So the storylines are pretty much a combination of real people that I've met and their experiences. Especially the story about the little boy. I just remember being in a room with an individual who we were visiting, and I just remember seeing the little boy on the couch, and he wanted to play his Xbox, but I hadn't played games in years, but I didn't know that you don't even have to buy them no more. They can just download through the internet. But he didn't have any games to play. And then the mother was dealing with substance abuse problems, so mom would disappear for days and days and days. But then the grandma was watching the child, but the grandma also had mental health issues, but there was no money for her. So I'm just like, oh my God. And there was more. I didn't put it in the song, but the boy in real life, this is a little graphic, but he got stabbed in the eye at school by another kid. And it's just like, but the kid was still just like a kid. He still had his innocence. He still had like the whole world in front of him, kind of. So that inspired the lyrics to that song. And so I definitely wanted to post that on the channel. I was like, man, I know I'm always talking like politics and gloom and doom. So I was like, maybe I should do like a brighter, happier song. But that's the one I really think I really want to showcase. So I'm glad that y'all brought that one up. Gives me permission to post it.
I know that you are a fan of 90s music. So, beyond just the sound, how does that era influence your vocal delivery?
That is a great question. How does it influence the vocal? I feel like every artist is rooted musically. They're rooted in what they grew up on. You know, I saw the research that says like a lot of people, your musical ear is crafted up to everything that you listen to up to the age of 14, and that's what creates your musical identity as far as what you're a fan of, what you connect with. Even the artist that you may be the biggest fan of, a lot of times it's somebody that you were obsessed with before 14, and then some of us, you know, you become a fan of people later on. So as far as like 90s music, a lot of that stacking that I do, that's straight up Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis productions, you know, all the stuff they did with Janet and Usher and all of them. So a lot of that. Dallas Austin, sometimes his approach would be a little abstract. I like to kind of go that route. Babyface, for me, Babyface taught me the gift of blending with different voices. Like, even though I do my own vocals by myself, there are some songs, like, I don't know if people can tell, but on the song To the Moment, I do have one of my good friends giving additional backgrounds to kind of fill it out some. But I always reference Toni Braxton's Why Should I Care? Because I always thought that was like a song with some amazing background vocals, because it's Babyface, it's Toni Braxton, and it's Shantae Moore. And, you know, all three of them have distinctive voices that are different but complement each other. And so even when I'm like doing my own stacking, I guess the idea is, yes, I'm blending with myself, but how can I like almost disguise my voice in these different pockets that I'm singing in so that the sound complements more, where it doesn't sound like it's 20 me just singing back to you, but it sounds like it's different people. So yeah, that's probably the biggest thing I learned. And then even just that same kind of song structure. I think a lot of songs that come out of the 90s, and Mariah, this was her thing too, where you approach your verses, you real subtle, real cool, and then you bring it home after the bridge, right? And so that's kind of been my approach as well.
The bridge. That's the lost element of most.
And I believe in bridges, so my song still got them. I am a bridger. I've been bridging for all 4 albums. So yeah, to me, the bridge is there so you don't turn the song off, right? Like, I feel like if you keep the same thing through a song, eventually, like if it's already not winning you over, it's like next. But sometimes you will. I think of like the big singers, right? The big voiced Tevin Campbell, Phil Perry, Mariah, Celine's, all of them, right? Sometimes they might have a song that is not really doing it for you, but you will ride out that bridge because, you know, at least, well, maybe when they get to the bridge, they're going to bring it home, and then that's when they win you over. So, yeah, it's like the bridge.
What you got, Trezz?
Is there a song from either of your albums that captures who you are as an artist?
Well, I think I have to answer that in two parts, because I think one would be the production side, as far as just me as like a producer. Like, I really like to go out there production wise. I don't like to get bored. So even on most of my songs, if you notice, I don't sing the verses the same way. My first verse never really has the same rhythmic pattern or melody as the second verse on most of the songs. Um, or sometimes there's lots of key changes, or sometimes the song goes into it could be 3 different songs, but it's in the same track. So like production wise, if there was a song to highlight for like production value, ooh, I would say it's between like Play Cool, the interlude, and maybe To the Moment from the After Yesterday album. And I'd even say maybe Rush, which is the last song on After Yesterday.
It's your song, and it's a song, and the fears on the table will turn about. It's so sweet, with the words you wish to see, with the kiss and love for me, standing up, you drunk, it's a tough, just let them know. Can't say some love, can't say lies. Can't see burning love, can't see what.
As far as like singing, and as an artist, like what really highlights, I'm trying to like run the track listing down in my head. I would say, man, maybe sometimes it's kind of like the neo soul kind of sounding track. I think that one is a good mix of it's current, but it references the old. It kind of gives you that early 2000s feel, but it's relevant to today. And then it is a little bit of everything in it. It's kind of gospel, it's kind of funky, it's R&B, a little bit of everything. I had the most fun doing the backgrounds on that song, so yeah, probably maybe that song.
Can't take it, and it hurts, it gets so down, it gets so down. She can't sleep if she hurts, train while leaders forward. She can't let the office see us cry.
Since the projects are out, on your side, how do you deal with the audience expectations while staying true to your artistry, if at all?
Yeah, so for me, my rule is if I like it, that's all that matters. Everybody else. Because true story, when I came out with my first album, I initially wasn't planning to do when I built the studio and started making music. And before you know it, you put some tracks here and there, and then, now I have an album. Okay, we're going to put it out. And so with that, to me, it felt like a gamble because people knew me for my opinions on YouTube or whatever I'm talking about. So it's like, okay, you got all this mouth and this, that, and the third. Oh, now you got music, huh? We about to see what you got. So then most of the commentary was, decent or, okay, this is cool, this is cool. But there was like one person that was just like, this sucks. This is the worst thing I've ever heard. You can't sing. You're not a good producer. It was like, they were like, I'm going to get him. We're going to say everything and just put it in one big comment. So it like tore me down. And it made me so mad that's why I ended up making the hardcover to prove that whoever that person was, I don't even remember who they were. Like, you're not gonna talk about my production. I was just playing with the first album. Now I'm gonna make one where I really mean it. And so when I realized like halfway through the hardcover production process, I was like, you're in this for the wrong reason. Make it because you like it, so on and so forth. So my rule has become, being okay with understanding that like art is subjective. And so not everybody's gonna like your stuff, and your stuff is not gonna be for everybody. Right. And it's a humbling experience anyway, because okay, you have this massive channel with this large following. Understanding and accepting that large following is not going to follow your every creative endeavor. They're not going to jump from, some people only want to hear my political opinion, or they want to, see certain stuff. And for me, it's totally fine. As far as the music, I make it for myself, but I also just make it because I enjoy it. And for those who connect with it, they connect with it. If they don't, okay. But did you make it? No. So like that's how I look at it. So
Can you make it?
that too. So, I welcome criticism, and honestly, I get a lot of positive feedback most of the time. So it's not even like a whole lot, but as a creative, you have to mentally train yourself to not give attention to everything, because there's constructive criticism And then there's people who just are trying to get under your skin because finally they have something that you're vulnerable with. And I think that's what a lot of artists, we all kind of struggle with. We're confident in everything, but we still are sensitive about our ish. So, yeah, so my rule is, listen, if I like it, that means it's good enough. If it made the album, that means I'm confident enough that if I were not the artist and I was just a consumer, this is something I would listen to if it came on the radio. So that's how I kind of make my rules for my projects.
So on that same note, who is qualified to critique your work?
I feel like anybody is, but I think it's more so what critique do I receive, right? Like I think of my father. My father had the best musical ear, but couldn't sing worth a lick at all. Like my whole musical ear, as far as what I listened to, is what he played in the car, right? So if my father were still alive and he was like, I don't care for this one, even though he can't carry a tune, I understand most likely where his idea is coming from or what it's rooted in. But as far as like music, I think music serves an interesting purpose because everybody receives it differently. You know, even when we're talking the highly successful entertainers that everybody loves, you know, sometimes you'll see the Billboard will make their list of greatest this or greatest that, and nobody can ever agree on what's accurate with the list, and that's just because everything is subjective again. So as far as mine, I welcome critique, but it doesn't mean I'm gonna change how I'm doing anything.
Yeah.
I will say, as far as critiques that make me like approach things, like I said, I have another friend that is like my pitch ear because they have like perfect pitch. They get on my nerves so much. But you know, I'll play something they're like, this, you're under the note on that. You got to go back. Okay, great. We'll go and refix that. Like those are the kind of critiques I kind of pull in a bit more. Or sometimes you're like, okay, Michael, the albums are getting a little long. You know, please don't have any more songs because both tracks are supposed to only be like 12 tracks, and you just one ended up being like 18, and I was like, well, this one, other one got to get to 18, and then one got to 20. I'm like, well, they got to have the same thing. So that kind of stuff. But you know, I think once you know what you're doing and you feel good about your work, there's not a whole lot that can really like change your trajectory of how you want to do things. So I welcome criticism. I don't entertain all criticism because some people are vile. Like there's some people that will randomly send me a message where they didn't like something I said about, I don't know, some policy that got signed into law. And then because they hated what I said so much, they dug through all my social media, found out I make music. Then they go and spam the music. Oh, I see why you're mad about taxes because this sucks. Don't pay those kind of people attention. Yeah, I did years ago when I was talking about on one of the videos, it was about just cultural appropriation and just kind of how there's been somewhat an erasure of blackness from certain aspects of music. And so somebody found one of the songs I made that's a bit more house oriented. And they're like, you talk about appropriation, but you're appropriating what Europeans did. I said, excuse me? Okay, now I got to drag you too because you don't even know the history of nothing. So yeah, that's that.
Speaking of knowing the history of things, I encourage everybody to go to your YouTube channel for the deep dive. It's good that you are educated in music and also you do music. So that's why I asked you who's qualified to critique your work,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that whole thing. Moving on. Do you ever write with a performance in mind, or is it something that you think about after?
It's always been an after. Honestly, I didn't start even performing my music until this year. And 4 albums in, right? And it's so funny because I was a whole choir director for some years and I've had all this background in like live performing, but my actual music, I was just never really performing for some reason. And I don't have a reason why. I wasn't afraid or anything. It just was never, you know, on the to-do list. But then Javon, he's the guy that shot my last music video. He does a lot of entertainment promotion and stuff. He's like, I'm kind of doing like a mini tour series around a few cities. I put you on the list. I'm like, what? What you mean you put me on the list? He's like, yeah, we're gonna be in Atlanta in April. What? Here, tell your followers. Okay, let's live a little, right? Now I will say to that question though, a lot of the up tempos that I make, musically how I approach them, I always approach them as if they were a live performance. Like for me, a lot of my favorite entertainers, they're my favorites because the live versions of their songs, as far as the musical arrangements, are so much better than the studio. So I kind of try to do that with a lot of the up tempos where it almost, even though a lot of it is in programming, right? But there's somewhat of that live, energetic feel to it.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy that aspect of it. So that's kind of the goal. I like I said earlier, I like for the music to tell a story before you put vocals on it. Sometimes I'm that dorky person that will go and try to find the soundboards from different tours or the rehearsals just so I can hear what the band was doing. And then, so that's kind of my approach to different things. Even like on my hardcover album, there's a song Addicted. When I did the background vocals on that song, one of the main bass as far as the backgrounds was what Janet's background singers were doing on the Janet tour from Because of Love. Like I just somehow found the stem from her soundboard. I was like, oh, okay. All right, that's gonna be my foundation. So it's kind of that's the approach. Or even there's a song Live It Up on the Before Tomorrow album. The little what is it? It's like some synth that's in there. The idea from the synth is actually from what that same band from the Janitor was doing on You Want This as during the encore. They had a little dun, 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 and then I kind of had that floating in my head, and then I was like, I'm gonna build a whole song around this. So yeah, there's a live element that's kind of infused into a lot of the production ideas.
Do you feel your sound has evolved since your first project or song?
Yeah, definitely a lot more intentional now. The very first album was kind of whatever I made the album. I was just impressed like right away. And which at the same time, there's like so many songs I want to go back and re-record because I'm like, oh, that vocal you could have did so much better on that. But it was kind of I didn't understand how mixing and mastering worked yet. I thought you just give the album and then they're gonna give it back to you and it's gonna sound like $1,000,000, right? So there were certain things that were not mixed properly.
In theory, that's the way it should be.
Yeah, there were certain notes that were not as clean on some songs that could have been just they weren't off, but it's like sometimes that end of the note was like, oh, you bent that a little bit. You should clean it up. So a lot more intentionality with these two projects, which is why there's so many songs that did not make the album just because it was like, I don't like how this one sounds yet, or maybe you come back to this one. There's a song on After Yesterday called Desire that actually was made for the hardcover for 2019. But I had made the music, but I didn't make the I couldn't figure out what to do with the lyrics and the melody. I had such a hard time. And so I just left it, like, forget it. And then as I was finishing After Yesterday, I was like, I need like 1 or 2 more songs. And then as I'm kind of just digging through my folder of old tracks, I was like, oh, I forgot about this one. We're gonna try this one again. So yeah, sometimes it's time helps. And so my ears definitely evolved. And you just kind of know where your strengths are after you've done a project or two. You know how to approach different things. Yes.
Off the album Before Tomorrow, what's the first song you wrote?
Let me pull up the track listing real quick. So do you mean like first song completed or the first song that I made just hit on the keyboard and disappeared and came back 3 months on?
The first song you completed.
Okay, okay. I don't even have to look that up. The very first one that was completed was Searching, which is actually towards the end of the album. I was in my feelings because I got dumped around 2019. So was in my feelings about it. So that was the very first song that I completed. The very last song in the album, I want to say was Play Cool. Play Cool was actually supposed to be a full song, and I was running out of time. And I was like, actually, just make it an interlude because I didn't want to yank it because I really liked the song, and I was like, I don't want to push it for the next project because there might not be one. So just still put it on. I want to say it was either Play Cool or Space in Your Mind with the very last two. Actually, no, I'm so sorry. The Kickoff is the last song that was recorded for Before Tomorrow. And that was just because I was like, I need one song that's a little bit more commercial, just in case I really was trying to push a single to get radio play. That's the one that radio would probably accept. So yeah. That's for Before Tomorrow. So Searching was the very first. The Kickoff was the very last. And they probably were recorded 2 years apart. So yeah.
So how
Mhm.
do you go about knowing what song belongs where?
It for me it goes back to like how does it make you feel? Now initially my original rule used to be up tempos in the front, mid tempos in the middle, slow it down at the end, good night and thank you. But once I started doing the hardcover, the second album, it was a little different because I had very adult contemporary songs and very kind of current trendy songs. So I was like, okay, well, why don't we put the current trendy songs in the front, the more adult contemporary at the end and go that way? And then for these two projects, it was different because Before Tomorrow's majority up tempo and After Yesterday's majority mid tempo slow jam. So it's like, well, they're already in the category they're supposed to be in. So it was more like, how does this make you feel? So for Before Tomorrow, I knew automatically Spin the Wheel has to be the first song because it doesn't really sound like anything else on there. It's very abstract. So just go ahead and open with that. And God willing, people stay for the rest of the album. I like it, but some people will be like, oh, this is a little too different for me. And after that, if they stay for the next track, it needs to just be a party as much as you can party. So it's like every song after that is something that you would want to dance to. And it's more so if you're playing one and it ends, the next song that comes after, does it keep that party going or does it mess up your rhythm? Like, oh, dang, this doesn't fit right. So you play and shift and shift and shift. And it even made some albums shift and switch over to different projects. Because Afraid was actually on After Yesterday and I switched it over. And then Stay was on Before Tomorrow. And I was like, this makes no sense. That's why on the opening of Before Tomorrow, you hear me having the argument about the song Stay that's playing in the background. I'm like, that's a project. So then for After Yesterday, same thing a little bit. It was just about like, how does it make you feel? There's a song called Rain that's very bright, boom, boom, boom. I was like, that needs to be in the front of the album. Because most of this album is, mid-tempo slow jams. You don't want to be in such a nice groove for 5 or 6 songs, and then out of nowhere, you get bombarded with this really high BPM song. So that was kind of in the front. There's 3 or maybe 4 songs that are a bit more mid-tempo. So I kind of pushed them in the middle. So like I think my 3 or 4 most experimental songs are at the beginning of After Yesterday. So Good to me is very Brothers Johnson, I'll Be Good to You meets Lucy Pearl Dance Tonight. And then Rain is right after that, which is very Prince, I Would Die For You-ish. And then right after that is Still Giving Love, which is very in your face, loud, heavier vocal. One of the few songs where I'm really singing out of my chest. And then Let You Go, which is another kind of abstract production. I was like, put the abstract stuff first. Then you have your grooves that are those are like the One Questions and Sometimes, and what else is there? Fantasy or Love. And then at the end, now put all your sexy tracks and all the stuff that you don't want your mama to listen to. So, like Karen Sue interlude, I was like, Mama, after Karen Sue, turn the album off. No, turn that off.
There's a really fine line between inspiration and imitation. So how do you differentiate the two?
Yeah. So I feel like as an artist, you're supposed to still have a musical identity. Now, I'm heavily influenced by a lot of artists, like Prince and Janet and Michael are my 3 for my up-tempo stuff. Joe, Tony, Brandy, who else would I say? Like Erica, Brothers Johnson. Those are kind of my inspirations for the more slower stuff. But I still definitely have my own musical identity. Like, and I'm starting to notice people say like, okay, we can kind of know when it's your production because you have a signature sound. I think the goal is you can take the inspiration, but you're not supposed to just regurgitate it, right? So maybe there's elements that you like about what an artist does, and that inspires you to kind of create your own sound. But that, like, the perfect example would be on the hardcover album again. I keep referencing the album, I don't know why, but yeah, there's the song that I did my first music video for, It Played Us. That became a thing because I randomly was going down the YouTube rabbit hole and watching different concert clips. Somehow Madonna's music performance from the Sticky and Sweet tour came up. Madonna's, she's somebody I listen to, but I don't have a heavy knowledge into her whole catalog. But on that tour, she remixed all the songs. And so when she had done music from that Sticky and Sweet tour, there's like this, but it's this bass riff that pulls, they like just pull through the song. And I was like, I like how that feels. And so that kind of made me go into the studio when I was making my track. I was like, well, I want a song that kind of pulls as well. And so if you play the 2 songs, they sound nothing alike. It doesn't sound like I went and stole her thing, but they do give you a similar energy. But I approach mine a bit more with a funkier kind of sound. But so I think when it comes to like artistry, everybody's influenced by everybody anyway. But I think when you start taking somebody else's musical identity and doing everything that they do and you do it just like them, the question becomes, well, who are you as an artist? Which is why I really enjoyed doing these 2 projects, because I don't feel like I'm pigeonholed by a sound. If you play both albums, you might not even realize it's the same person if you change the album covers. And so I think that's the goal. I will say there are some artists who I think make great music, but I still don't know what their musical identity is. And it's because they borrowed everything. I will not name drop, but there's a certain artist that I think has had an amazing career, but I still don't know who they are artistically because every project has been something that references something else. And that's cool. But then, 50 years from now, when it's we open the books, and where do you fall in that conversation now? If nothing you did, I don't want to say it was original because I still think it works, but I think you just want to still have something that's yours. Like even as an artist, there's certain little things I may do in the background that typically only I do. Not to say nobody else does it, but it's like, okay, yeah, that's something you end up doing. You start hearing things that are familiar in just different production styles. So I think as an artist, yeah, let your inspirations help pave the road, but the road is not supposed to just be all of their work and you walking on top of it, right?
So we talked about some albums in particular. One that seemed to be left out tonight is Symphonic Euphoria,
Mhm.
which is the first, right?
Yeah.
2017.
Mhm.
Where did that title come from?
So the album was supposed to be called Project Nostalgia. I don't know where it came from, but I'm glad I changed it because what's the name? Dua Lipa ended up having a similar title like 3 years later. But when I put it together, I thought of symphonic just with like the production styles. When I'm thinking symphonic, I'm just thinking music, 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 all the different sounds and what's happening around you. And then Euphoria, as far as just, I thought it was an album with a lot of feel good music, right? Like I said, most of my sound is very bright, high energy, makes you want to dance. When I initially decided that was going to actually be an album and I just wasn't making tracks anymore, I was like, let me make some songs that people would want to dance to or stuff that makes you kind of bop your head a little bit. And so that was the goal with that album. And I just wanted to do something that was real different. At the time, we were trapped out. Everything was trapped. And I had nothing against it, but I was like, dang, man, y'all don't want to mix it up a little bit. So I was like, let me make an album that has all kind of sounds where there's house, there's New Jack Swing, kind of the dance hall, there's rap, there's jazz, there's R&B, there's a little bit of everything. And so that's what that was pretty much.
You could drop everything right now and you had to collaborate with an artist or a producer. Who would that be? Like who would you, or what producer or what artist or songwriter would you want to collab with and you had the opportunity to do it right now?
All right. So my three right now, the main one that I really want, which is so left field from what I do, I really like Warren Treaty. That's
Okay.
the husband and wife duo that do country music. It's and then once I realized that the wife was Tanya Blunt from Sister Act 2, I was like, that's her. So that's my North Star at the moment. I'm like, I'm gonna figure this out, how to get them. Because I have a few like country bluegrass tracks I just never put them out. I guess if you count July 11th off of the hardcover, that's kind of bluegrassish. But yeah, there's other songs that have just been sitting there, and I'm like, I need somebody else that has the right voice to sing this, right?
So do we have a country album in the future?
I need, but I would love to get some country tracks, right?
I'm glad. Okay.
So that's one. Amber Mark is another that I
Mhm.
enjoyed her music. I think she's fun. I want to see her branch into more commercial sides as far as like more people supporting her. So I wanted to work with her. And then he's actually on tour and he's kind of shifted a bit more to rock, but I'll still work with it. It was Duckworth. He's like a rapper singer. I like him because we're the same age. So it reminds me that I'm not too old. This person. And we have similar upbringing. So those are my three, but I would really like to make like a really nice love ballad for Warren Treaty. That's
Okay.
Is there any particular song or moment that made you feel seen or validated as an artist?
yeah. Actually there's a few, but the main two right now, my song One Question from After Yesterday is it's gotten some legs and I haven't even promoted it yet. So I love that.
Give your attention. You would tell me what's your name. Yeah. How can one be up? Answer me this question. How can one be down? How can one be up? Answer me this question.
But even the song I Want that pretty much was the main single. When I actually finally started performing and getting to see like the crowd reaction, and that it kind of reminded me like, okay, you're actually you're better than you need to give yourself more credit because with doing more performing and stuff now, you do a lot of showcases where you're not the only person on the ticket, right? There's other artists and everything, and you become very observant because I'm kind of competitive but not competitive. I'm a competitive person, but you're not gonna see it, right? And so while I'm in there, I'm over here analyzing every other artist's song and so on and so forth. And as you're there, I'm like, actually, so I remember when we get to I Want, because I did a few songs, and just to see the way like the crowd kind of lights up, because the production style of it, I think, is it's familiar, but it's different for 2025. And it's a lot of people making a lot of really bright up tempos. I don't know what the issue is. It's driving me crazy though. But to kind of just see how the crowd responded, and then I had like a call and response section that I had incorporated into the mix and stuff, and to see how like much crowd participation I got I was like, okay, you got this. And I was nervous because it wasn't like I had my dancers or anything. It's literally just me. So it's like I gotta sing and win these people over, and I'm on this ticket with 6 or 7 rappers, and I'm the only one singing in the night. So I think there's that aspect of it. And I always like seeing people's first reaction. So I remember doing like sound check, and I remember the bartender was like, "Oh, you see people like bopping their head." Or when I did my first album, there was a song called "Get Down," which I honestly don't even like the song now, but I loved it when I made it. I remember drive. It was like my test run to see if that was the song I was going to push. And I remember I would drive with the windows down, blasting it. I get to the red light and kind of see if anybody was like bopping their head or anything, and like, oh, head. This is the one. So yeah, but right now, One Question and I Want are the two that I think people really enjoy. So I'm glad that, and I love that because I Want was recorded in 2 days. That was like a spur of the moment. I need to make a music video, throw a song out, and that one just happened to work. So it's those two.
So when it comes to making music, how long does it take you to do one song?
I think it varies. I can do a song in as quick as like a week, but I like to wait because you're kind of ear blind to your own voice and your own antics and stuff. And so something will sound really, really good in January. You may play it back in March. And like, what the hell was I thinking? Right.
Yeah.
Well, I've learned to kind of let songs simmer, which is why the project sometimes takes so long. Some of those songs I may record the first verse and the hook and may not come back to that song for months. So a song like Rush, which closes after yesterday, I had the song up until the first hook, and then it just sat there for probably 2 years. And then that wasn't on purpose. I was doing a movie and other stuff. My plate was full. And then I finally went back, recorded the second verse, the bridge, the closing. A song like To the Moment, initially it was just that kind of go-go sound without the how I did the verses and how I did everything. I didn't know what to do with the music. So a lot of times, sometimes the music, until I'm satisfied with what I think the melody should be and the vocal is right, it may be a while. So sometimes I can do it in as quick as a week. Sometimes it's a few months. But as far as like actual time spent without just taking breaks and napping, if you're just talking about the hours into the studio, anywhere between like 2 days and 3 weeks, I'd say. Sometimes, especially when I worked with kids, some days I would want to record, but I've been fussing at kids for 6 hours. I have no voice or maybe that's the day you're supposed to do the falsetto. You need the nice delicateness, but there's no delicacy there because you've been fussing for 3 hours. So, that kind of stuff. So it varies. The production for me is the easiest part. The music I can sometimes make in one day. But the vocals normally would take a little bit longer.
The instrumentation. How do you go about choosing the instruments?
So my whole studio, I got the drum little that I've never used before. It's just been sitting there for years. And then I have a Casio like keyboard, and then I just plug that in MIDI that. And so I've taught myself as a child to play piano by ear. And that's pretty much my home base for making all my songs. As far as the drums, like most of the songs, I'll start with the actual drums anyway, right? I'm always and then, so I'll normally make my drum beat first, and that might be 4 or 5 drum kit tracks. Then I do a lot of like random vocal inflections into the mic, or I'll take random house items and bang them against each other just to get a certain sound I want. Then after that, I'll kind of play around and just start hitting chords and playing around so something sounds interesting. Or maybe I'm doing a bass riff and we'll kind of build from there. Or sometimes I'll just stack vocals against the drums with no music and then play around my voice. So it just kind of depends. But yeah, most songs I've always built the drums first. just because I'm always thinking of dancing, and then we kind of build from there. But yeah, everything is done through my Yamaha like keyboard, um, and kind of build through that. So okay, I want a guitar sound, great. Pull it into the MIDI, play the guitar into the keyboard that way. I'm not really the best guitar player, so it's just easier to play it on the keyboard. And drums, I live in an apartment. My studio's in my living room. That would never fly. So do it all in the keyboard. So yeah.
How do you determine like the key signatures and BPM of your song?
I don't. I just be playing. um, yeah, I kind of. It goes back to what I was saying about just feeling again. I knew when I was making that song, it was replacing another song that didn't make. First of all, one question was supposed to go on before tomorrow, and and I was like, I don't. No, we're gonna move it to the other one because I was like, we can't put all the good stuff on before tomorrow, and then the other one feels like it's leftovers almost. So I was replacing a different song that didn't make before tomorrow, and then I decided either way it needs to go on after yesterday. And so at the time, I think I was just cleaning the house, and I had a lot of mid tempos playing. So it was like Michael Jackson Butterflies, and like Brandy's. I want to say what song was that? Sitting up in my room. It references that song, obviously. That was playing, I think, like Janet's Island Life, just a bunch of songs. So I was like, I don't want something I could just all the way through. But I told myself, make it smooth and keep it smooth. Don't make it go any faster, but don't make it slow. And so, yeah, there's not really a even with the BPM on all my songs, I never make a setting like, oh, I want this to be at 120. I want this to be at 80. I'm literally just playing, and then it kind of just builds to whatever it builds to. Every now and then there may be a song where, again, it's that conversation of I want the same energy it has. And I may have that song playing in my headphones, and then I'm building my drum beat to match their same tempo, that approach. Because I don't like to use the metronome. I can't stand it. Well, I take that back. I like the metronome if I'm making the chords before I do the drums. Then I'll do that to make sure I'm on beat. But other than that, I don't like the metronome. So yeah.
I don't know too many musicians that do.
Yeah. It's good to keep you on track, but yeah, yeah.
Have you written a song that you felt was too personal to release?
Really? I feel like I'm pretty much an open book on the internet anyway. Everybody knows all my business. So, but the song that I guess I could say I connected with the most, it probably was July 11th. That was the second song I made for my dad. Like there was a song called Pops that I made. I ended up not liking it after a few years. I was like, I think my dad deserves better. And so then I made like July 11th. So that one was one where I was like, oh, this is actually kind of sad. Cause I think it was kind of hit me that, oh yeah, you sing about somebody that's not here no more. So maybe that one. Harsh Truth was one. I was in my feelings. I had a really, really great friend that kind of just flaked off out of nowhere. And then at the same time, this is around the same time I had been dumped. So it was like good friend out of the picture. You got the ex. Everybody's terrible. And then with the pandemic, we in the house too. So I got to get these thoughts out. So that's what that was. Yeah, so that one, that's why I was like, put it at the very end of the album. And even like the song Afraid is kind of an extension of that, all in the same boat. Because then, once you get dumped, then you're scared to put yourself back out there because you don't want to feel the same way you felt before. So it's all actually all of those songs, Searching, Afraid, and Harsh Truth, they're all at the end of the album. They go back to back to back. I was in my feelings. So all of those, yeah. I always tell people that I always be trying to bypass that first album. Like that's my my Janet Jackson Dream Street. So I don't be trying to promote that.
It just get back control.
Yeah, so it's still a nice one. But that's like, all right, it's got some gems on it I love. But I actually do want to go back and remix and remaster that one. And there's like 3 songs I just want to clean up a little bit, and I'll feel a bit more comfortable like pushing that one too. But it goes back to that's maybe the one album where I didn't let enough time sit before I put it out. It was like you were just in love with everything because everything was great. So then you put it out.
I mean, it's your first project, so you might have just been excited. How much of a perfectionist would you say you are?
Well, for the music,
Yeah.
on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe 8.5, 9. And I say that because I don't like pitch correction either, so I don't use it. It's on a song or two, but I personally would rather people hear your raw vocal. Like I hate Melodyne with a passion. because it makes everybody sound the same, and there's no distinction between a lot of people's voices, and their vibrato is missing because it becomes, like electric or computerized. And so that perfection aspect, I'm sure Melodyne would really polish some of those songs even better, but I don't like it. So I'm like, I would rather you hear exactly what it was supposed to sound like. So when you hear it live, you get exactly what you heard in the studio. So that's why I would not say like a 10, but just because of that, you definitely put the project out knowing it's gonna, I don't know, there is definitely somewhat of a disconnect generationally with people who now are used to Melodyne, because they use it in the movies and everything too now, which I don't like. Like you see a movie where they're singing and you can hear it, I'm like, this just waters down so much. But as far as like perfect, yeah, I'd say maybe an 8.5, sometimes a 9. When it comes to completing the album, I'm definitely on like a 10. It's not coming out till I have it exactly where I want it. But overall, I'm not somebody who's against like wiggle room for like things to be left in like the abstract or left up for interpretation by the listener.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap up, what can we expect next with Calvin Michaels?
So I definitely want to do another music video. Now, I'm not sure if I want to do a video for any of the songs on these 2 albums, or if I want to just go back and make a one-off song. And that's just because I like dancing. I want to make another dance video.
Okay.
So that's an idea. Another thing I've been thinking about is maybe an EP of like 3 or 4 songs.
Okay.
Kind of do like a house project. Those are some things. The main thing right now is probably collaborations with other people, making some of their music. And then, I still want to maybe do some more shows. I actually, once I did that first one, it's like you open a Pandora's box and now you want to do more.
Yep.
So that unrelated to music, I'm gonna kind of get back into comedy a little bit. I used to do stand, not done a show since 2015, and it's mainly my comedically hard-headed podcast kind of takes that void for me. But so I just wanted to be a bit more present as far as like live stages. So that's probably what my 2026 will look like. I don't know about another full-length album for. If I do another full album, it wouldn't be till maybe 2027. So I'm gonna use this time to actually promote these 2 albums that I have done a terrible job of promoting. So I'm appreciative that you guys invited me here. I'll appreciate you. Maybe a one-off video, just a single, and then probably building my music audience a bit more. More people should hear it, I guess. But I tend to become a fan of myself and not be too bashful to promote my music. That's so.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks for stopping by. I'll continue to listen to your.
Right, hey, listen, you need to promote your own stuff. You talking all this, you got projects over there too, sir. But yeah.
I'm so much okay.
Oh, Lord.
It's like 2 3 It's just
So you really did turn into Prince, because that's the rate he goes. Prince just be all day. But I don't know how he did it, because I'd spend all day on the same song. But yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking about music right now.
Mm-hmm. That's why they rushing me off. But no, I was kidding.
Oh, I
was kidding. But no, this is good. I thank you guys for inviting me. So
Yeah. Thanks for coming on.
thanks for being
Chris, the first. Yes. Thank you.
oh man, congratulations on launching. And only go left.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
You got to have a good night.
All right. You too.
Thank you.